let's go ahead and move on to our 90s, 50s, 10s. Now, for people who are not familiar with the concept, Ryan, you're the one that brought it up to us like three years ago at this point. So break it down for us.
Yeah, so this has been somewhat of a tradition here on the USL show. Idea came from the Formula One subreddit. So we now have basically we send out three predictions we have for the year, not necessarily predictions that we think are guaranteed that are to happen, but our three ideas are you are predicting something that has a 90% chance of occurring, then you have a prediction that you think has a 50% chance of occurring, and then we sprinkle in a 10% long shot chance of occurring as well, just to kind of make it something fun for us to keep track of for the season.
Well, on that, we are going to start off with our 90s. These are our near locks. So, who wants to get us started? Let's see, John.
Okay, I'm being
Yeah.
volunteered. Okay,
All right.
I feel very confident about this, that Monterey Bay misses the playoffs. This is a team that I've been watching the offseason news come in. Lots of teams in the USL are zigging in one direction, and Monterey is very much zagging in the other. Like, they've added almost no players with bona fide USL championship experience. On top of that, they missed the playoffs already. They had a bottom five XG margin in the league. They're losing Tristan Treger, Maury Donor, Anthony Siaha, and they aren't starting the season with Rafael Baca. This feels like a team that's kind of Miami-ing in that they're going very young. They've got a couple of holdover pieces at least, but I just can't see a world where they've improved enough in a very strong Western Conference to get into the postseason. So, sorry to the team formerly known as Union.
Ryan.
Yeah, so sticking in the Western Conference, I've gone with my 90% prediction as both Colorado Springs and Las Vegas Lights do not return to the Western Conference final. Las Vegas Lights obviously made the hire at manager, which was something that was just more of a bold call, if you will. And then for Colorado Springs perspective, repeating as USL champions in this era is incredibly difficult. Even if you look back at the Western Conference final alone, the last time we had a team make it back-to-back appearances in the Western Conference final was San Antonio, who did it in 2021 and 2022. I think the Western Conference is going to be much improved. You're going to see a team like a New Mexico, like a Sacramento, who will be very good out there this year, that I think it just pushes Las Vegas out. And then just over the course of a long season, anything could happen with Colorado Springs, and just repeating is challenging. And I think they fall short of the Western Conference final.
Phil.
My 90% prediction is I'm gonna move away, since John went with the Monterey Bay angle. I'm gonna save mine for the 10%. Just I'll flip mine around. So 90%, Gaston Madoni does not take Miami FC to the playoffs. Brand new coach, Argentinian, exciting times down on South Beach.
Sebastian Blanco in.
Yeah, anything is possible. I think we've got another long season down in Miami. Unfortunately for those guys, there just has not been enough movement, not enough of the they're sticking with essentially the same exact strategy that got them like one of the worst ever seasons. Like,
we will be returning to this point.
So I wanted to shout out the new manager bounce when they inevitably get a draw in week one.
My 90% is going to be that a USL League One expansion team is going to make the playoffs, which doesn't seem like it's that outlandish until you realize across both the championship and League One, I think since the championship era started, there's only been 3 or 4 expansion teams to ever make the playoffs in their first year. It's really hard to do. But when you look at just Westchester, you look at Naples, you look at a little bit of what Pine are doing, AV Alta, and Texoma is alive. We can repeat, Texoma is alive.
Texoma got Jorge Corrales and Preston Kilwin. Like, they're genuinely like a good defense. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like when you're looking what they're building, I think that it's a 9%, at least one makes it. And if I'm being extra bullish, and this is not my 50%, by the way, I'm thinking that maybe you could have multiple make the playoffs this year.
Okay, wait. So tell me if I'm being an idiot here.
Okay.
League One has 14 teams,
Yep.
right?
Oh wait,
Five of them are expansion teams.
has Kaler actually mathed his way into like not possibly being wrong?
I feel no 6 are gonna make the playoffs. I needed to just like have this accounting, but I was gonna say like it would be incredible if of the 6 teams to not make the postseason, 5 of them were the expansion teams.
There's like literally a 90% chance of an expansion team making the playoffs.
Kaler took this literally.
And that other one, the Chattanooga Red Wolves.
I'll tell you what, that was my backup for this 90% because I think that team is going to finish dead last.
Speaking
How
of
about
the well,
Okay.
I just wanted to say real quick before we move on from this is you mentioned Westchester, and just wanted to say, John, the interview with Westchester did get me I would say like that is where my wife is from. She's like from that part of New York, and I did not take them seriously until reading that interview where I was like, man, like they actually have a pretty clear vision of what they want to do and how they're going to do it, and biting off more than they can chew, which is like a rite of passage in American soccer, but actually recognizing it and not trying to act like it's all good, and working their way through. So very, very good piece. If you haven't checked out John's, I know I'm preaching to the choir in the chat right now, but
I think the thing with Westchester, just to kind of dip into that for a second, is like if you're an expansion team, it's hard to know like what you're supposed to be doing. And obviously, we talked a bit in the piece about how the league has some guidance for you, but you're still going to make mistakes in year one. And I think Westchester is kind of learning the media side of things as they go. It's only going to get better. But like the proactivity of Mitch reached out to me, he reached out to Alex from League One Updater and said, like, we have a story we want to tell if you guys are willing to help out. So yeah, positive signs for sure.
it's awesome.
Portland has their own documentary coming out, which is really cool. And New Mexico as well, right?
Thursday night live premiere. People around the club are encouraging, like if you can be there for the live premiere on YouTube, they're trying to make it an event. Owner Peter Trevisani will be just chatting with people on YouTube as one does.
Nice.
I'll be sure to be hate watching.
And we'd also
wanted to shout out a couple of chat 90%ers here. We've got a 90% Indy 11 doesn't make the playoffs, which feels targeted.
And a 90% El Paso doesn't make the playoffs, which also feels targeted. But hold on to that thought.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
And then Michael
would
Hughes,
also be,
as always, is pro Lexington. So yeah.
We would also be remiss if we didn't mention that Tyler Adams joining the Westchester FC ownership group as well.
Oh, that's true.
Him and Tyrod Taylor for the NFL sickos out there.
And I don't know what it is about Tyler Adams, but he's an absolute magnet for just getting beat up. When Liverpool played Bournemouth over the weekend, he like finally makes it back on the pitch. I'm like excited to see him. He's playing well, and he gets absolutely destroyed by a shot from his own player direct to the family jewels. Just like unlucky. Like I can't find a better word for Tyler Adams than he might be the most unlucky soccer player like on the planet.
I'm looking forward to the future when we can get not just Tyler Adams's Westchester, but Timothy Weah's Brooklyn FC to meet in competition at one point soon.
Yeah.
Need that.
Okay, a 90% in the comments once more, just to turn this into a prompt. A 90% chance that a USL team makes the US Open Cup final from Eric. Which USL team is likeliest to actually do that? And don't just say Lou City, because the answer is Lou City.
You
If
say
not
that,
Louisville-
but I actually think that it wouldn't be Lou City because I think an MLS team would be more likely to take them seriously earlier. I think you'd be more likely to find someone who is slipped down slightly below that. I think an easy answer would be Sacramento because they've done it before. I have a sneaky part of me that thinks it would be New Mexico.
They made they were second furthest advancing last year and had the away game in LA, so that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be
they do
crucial.
I was just going to say they've got a history of cup runs like going back to the first season. So
For me, what would be crucial is if we can find a USL team that avoids the tough MLS sides that you could possibly draw. So you'd be picking a team from basically a geographic region where you could avoid your Atlantas, your Charlotte FCs, your Austins in there, and kind of piece your way through and just get really lucky with the draw, that if there are upsets early, that if you play a semi-professional team in a later round, that would be kind of the route that you would go through. So if that's a New Mexico who exists, or Tampa Bay.
I was going to say Tampa Bay was like literally the width of the crossbar or whatever away from beating Orlando City. And I think that matchup does like favor Tampa Bay in recent times. Like they've played MLS teams extremely close, and no Atlanta in the competition this time around. So in the Southeast, like it's pretty much Orlando and Charlotte who like you would play, which I think yeah.
I'd like to shout for Charleston real quick. Sorry, Kaylor, because
Yeah.
they've got Douglas Martinez. And as we've seen historically on Sacramento, on Indy, guy is just magic for a run. So that's my very scientific opinion.
I'm also going to throw out there, if we're thinking about weaker regions for MLS. Now, I don't know how I don't have the teams who are in the U.S. Open Cup. When I'm thinking about weaker teams, though, this could just be shaping up for another Union Omaha, because Minnesota wasn't great last year. The Fire were the Fire. They still don't have Neymar. And Sporting KC was okay. Honestly, everybody around Union Omaha, just all right. They also have a path.
Sporting KC
beating El Paso in the first round.
Yeah.
El Paso's got to get past 4-0 FC or whatever. So like we've got a tall order before we can start talking about a run. They got to win a game.
All right. 50s. We ready for some 50s?
Yeah, I've got some picks here.
Okay. Well, I will start it off since I voluntold you last time. I will start us off. And my 50% is that a League One team is going to win one of their Jägermeister groups.
Love that.
I like that shout.
I did that in my Backfield season preview. I said multiple would win their group. So, yeah, Omaha, Westchester. There's a lot of favorable ones. Tormenta, with the draw they've got, could do it, and especially the roster they're building.
We know that Omaha is getting 2 wins over El Paso. That's like written in the stars. So that's we know you can chalk those up already.
All right.
Okay, I'm coming in with a 50 here. I'm gonna make a bold prediction that between the two of them, Jack Kerr and Ryan Spalding in Sacramento combined to contribute to more than 25 goals. That's from the wingback spots, keep in mind. Spalding is somebody who has played under Neil Collins before. He gives that team a real sense of spark on the left side. I praise Jack Kerr so much that I really don't need to repeat myself at that point. Like, just an incredible player. Cumulatively last season, they put up more than half an expected assist per game. Like, that's incredible production. So long as they're getting the finishing up top, like, I think that's attainable for them, even though it's kind of crazy to think for two defenders.
Ammon almost certainly has like a better season and maybe a more consistent season than he did last year, where he started very, very hot and then sort of cooled off like aggressively later in the year. So yeah, with a little bit more consistency, I think like they can certainly get a lot of return out of those wingback spots.
And I'll clarify, when I'm saying this, I mean in USL regular season play and any games in the Jägermeister Cup. So like internal league play.
USL, yeah, sure.
All right, Ryan.
This is probably going to be a little bit more me trying to manifest this, but off the heels of the news that Elijah Winder had the USL domestic transfer record of 400,000 to the LA Galaxy, and with having a larger field for the Open Cup, with having the combined Jägermeister Cup, I think we will have a 50% chance that there will be a player this season by the end of 2025 who will approach that transfer record, if not even break that record. maybe it's more so me just trying to manifest it to happen. But I feel like with an expansion of just the tournament and more eyes being placed kind of in USL, there's going to be someone who will elevate themselves enough to get recognized from an MLS team.
We'll see what Corcoran gets from Nashville, because I mean that's all but confirmed. His number was already given to a trialist, so like almost certainly going to happen. We'll see what that number looks like. Also, just purely Legion stuff going on here. I would not be shocked if a team in MLS goes in early on Rami Zamuda. I think that's going to he was definitely the best player on the pitch on this last Saturday. But like I think that you could see two players right there that could approach that number. And there's obviously other young talent around the league that could definitely fetch at least approaching that number.
Nate Worth previously has had at least bids from MLS teams. You wonder if that could happen. Kind of an interesting landscape too, like given that MLS just added the cash transfers. Like you see the 2.1 number for Jack McGlynn, who's somebody who's like a bona fide USMNT player, versus 400K for Winder. It's not like different stratospheres. So I think it kind of shows a certain level of respect for the USL.
All right. What about 50 for you, Phil?
So I'm going out on a limb here, but with the news that Noah Fuson re-signed a multi-year deal in Rhode Island, I'm going that Noah is going to have an all-league year and be in the USL Championship Team of the Year this year for the full season. I think we saw, especially in the back half of last year, just how potent he can be. And now that this team is like obviously returning a lot of the strong pieces that took them on that run to the final, I think Noah is going to be one of the people who really thrives in the consistency. And he's just a player that I really admired last year, and I think he'll be a key piece again for Rhode Island. But I think he'll take it to the next level in terms of production and be an all-league player.
I think he might have been the biggest first team snub last year, honestly. So given the fact that he's kind of got that chip on his shoulder, I think this Rhode Island team is going to be unreal to watch anyway. That feels like a strong argument to make. But hey, all league spots are tough to get, so I think that's why it's a good 50.
Yeah,
for sure. All right, our 10s.
Real quick, I'm shouting out the comments again. Lexington sweeping all their matches with Lou City is so spicy, and I love that.
I do love that it's a 50%, like, because I mean it's basically exactly the odds of any game, right? Like you do have a 50% chance. So yeah.
And more broadly, where are we at on this Lexington roster? As they kind of got boat raced in their last friendly, but drew Messi a week or two ago.
I think I like it. I guess where I am right now is that it's a lot of really good players and a lot of players that are brand new to Lexington. A lot of players who have never played together before, and it's a new coach. So I think there's going to be a time early on in the season, maybe about the first month, where they look like an expansion team. And I think that roughly around June, July, they're going to hit their stride and prove that they're really good. But I feel like because it's so many new players and a new coach, that it's just going to be really hard to get that continuity throughout the first few months.
Here's what I'm going to say about Lexington. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. So
again.
Yeah, exactly. You can't shoot the shooter. So I think I think there is like Kaylor said, like names on page super good. There's a lot of players obviously like that I think extremely highly of, and I think they will be like good and will produce for Lexington. That being said, particularly in midfield, I would say it's like a lot of good names. Getting that to be a cohesive unit over a short period of time is going to be tough. And in general, I think it'll take some time. we thought that Lexington had a championship caliber squad last year, and we were deeply wrong about that. Obviously, in League One play, it will take a lot for me to like warm up to the idea of Lexington being for real, given how they fooled us last year.
And Kaylor, it's interesting that you mentioned by June and July that Lexington will really start to kind of come into their own, as the end of July, on July 26th, Lexington is hosting Louisville for that one after their initial first meeting at Lynn Family Stadium in May. And you could very well see them not looking up to par against Louisville the first time around, but the second time around could very well be a Lexington victory.
I had something and I totally lost it, and that's brutal. That is
Do
so
we-
brutal.
I boldly think that Cameron Lancaster might not be the guy at the 9 spot. Like, I think they need, because right now, given that they just loaned out Malik, Henry Scott
Henry
to
Scott,
Huntsville, yeah, they've only got Lancaster and Liotti essentially at the 9 spot. That's fine, but old-ish Cameron Lancaster and a player in Azad Liotti we've never seen do it at the championship level. The one thing I think this team really needs to address going into the year.
Yeah. All right. I'm ready for my 10.
Go for it.
This is my 10%. Now, these are sprinkles. It's not very much, right? Like, small chance, but still a chance. I have 10% that the Pittsburgh Riverhounds are going to win the Players' Shield.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's crazy.
They've done something they've never done before, which is bring in bona fide USL forwards. And like, they bring back oh my gosh, what's his name? Is it Jacobson? No,
Jackson. Yeah,
Jackson.
You got it.
I was all over it. They bring back Jackson, who, was a stud for them last year. Augie Williams is coming in, and he is just a goal scorer. And they're bringing back the base of their defensive midfield. Plus, they still have Dick in goal, where you're going to have a defensively solid team. And they have they have 2 players who are going to score goals for them. It's a Bob Lilly side. They're not going to concede, and they're probably going to score 1 or more now. I think there is a 10% chance that they win the Players' Shield.
I think the loss of someone like a Patrick Hogan, who really stepped up at the end of last season, is a big deal. With Rovira and Blackstock both gone at the right wingback spot and kind of no one filling that hole as of yet, I'm slightly concerned there. I think that this team will look a lot closer to the Pittsburgh we saw at the end of 2024, when they were kind of, at the level of a team that would compete for home field advantage. But hey, at this point that's the point of the 10% prediction. Like, I love the boldness there.
I just think it's crazy that a Bob Lilly team has 4 rostered defenders, like, a month out for the that's crazy.
I'll go with my 10%, and Julian in the chat has really echoed it. And I had said that one team does the double of winning the Jägermeister Cup and winning their respective league title this year. I wasn't so bold to say that they would do the treble to throw in an Open Cup or a Players' Shield, but I think we're going to see at least whoever wins their respective league is going to make a very good run at the Jägermeister Cup, and my 10% is that they do the double and win both.
No, actually, we didn't. Well, we kind of had a double last year with Union Omaha with Players' Shield and USL Cup. Yeah, it counts. It doesn't happen very often. Because I was going to say, when I said kinda, I was going to say we had a double with Jaeger, but that was NOCO, so I was going to correct myself. But yeah, I mean, I could see it, especially with Jägermeister and the USL Cup. I could definitely see it happening.
And those were the specific stipulations of this one, that it had to be the league title and the Jägermeister Cup. So no Jägermeister and Players' Shield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which makes it harder.
Okay. John or Phil, who wants it?
All right, I'm going for it.
Yep, do it. I'll say
Miami's making the playoffs. Dead serious. I think there are 2 components here. One, Detroit City, getting a lot worse for my taste. I think that is a team that is going to fall out of the playoff mix this year. I don't know if I trust Hartford to improve. Loudon hasn't signed anybody but Moses Nyman, and he plays at a position where they were already solid. That's a lot of teams that are kind of middling already from the jump. If you look at what Miami is doing, yes, they only have like 6 senior players on the squad right now. But if Sebastian Blanco stays healthy and can recapture a semblance of his MLS level, I think he's an excellent player that can really run the show down the middle. And adding Bolu Akinyode and Jonathan Ricketts, like those are rock solid defenders, or at least presences in the back half that this Miami side simply never had last season. There are some unknowns, obviously, but someone like a Ricardo Rivera, who's put up bucket loads of goals for Puerto Rico, is nothing if not fascinating at the number 9 spot. If you look at Madoni, the new manager's experience with Boca Juniors and River Plate, like he's going to command respect. And there's obviously a very Argentine tint to the way the team is going right now. I don't know if that's going to work out, but if you can give me like 10% odds that this team pulls it together and squeaks in, I'm buying what they're selling.
I mean, I want to throw out there, this is like the one we did 2 years ago where I was a year early, but I said 10% on the Vegas Lights finishing in a playoff spot. I get a feeling that you are a year early. I don't disagree, but I feel like you're a year off, but I like it.
I just, yeah. And it again, a lot of it is like, is the bottom of the East actually getting better? Not really. So if Miami can be in the mix and make up ground, I think a lot's going to depend on the goalie as well. Like if they get somebody who can really kind of push above their weight, that's going to make all the difference. But yeah, again, that's the point of the 10%er.
All right, here goes. So my 10% prediction is I think there's a 10% chance that Locomotive finishes within 3 points of a playoff spot. I think they will be comfortably out of playoff contention this year. And here's why. They have 21 rostered players as of the 4th of February today. And they are light sort of across all areas of the team apart from defense. Like they have some depth in defense, particularly at center back. They have way too many center backs. Like for my taste, the balance feels completely wrong. They have like in midfield, Eric Calvillo obviously is like the now sort of the old head, but he joins Robert Coronado. Frank DeRoma is sort of the new addition, which I think Frank DeRoma is a very good player. That's kind of it. Like Emi Rodriguez, who was an academy promotion last year, is another player that they have in midfield. And they obviously sent Bolu Akinyode back to Miami. So depth-wise in midfield, they're extremely lacking. And then at forward, they don't have a single rostered forward who had double-digit goal contributions last year. Amando Moreno and Tumi Moshibane are obviously capable of those in previous years, but they never looked anywhere near getting there under either Brian Clairhout or Wilmer Cabrera. And the players that they've added have not had prodigious goal-scoring seasons either. In fact, the player with the most goal contributions that they have signed this season is Memo Diaz because of his 7 assists last year for Oakland Roots from wingback. So there is simply not enough goals in this team. There's not enough depth in midfield. And I honestly, it's the roster stuff, especially in a year where you've hired a technical director whose whole job it is to put a roster together separate from the manager. And I'm not seeing Ray Sari's fingerprints anywhere on this team. I'm seeing a lot of Wilmer Cabrera because it's a lot of RGV guys and a lot of guys connections with. And really the only Ray Sari stuff is is some of the LA2 players that he tracked apparently back in the day, who, played for like DeRoma. So, and Quezada. So I think in general, this is I think we could just be blunt and say that this is a League One roster at this point. There are certainly very good players on this team who are now at least 1 year removed from their last good season. And I think like it will take some doing for this team to compete in a West that has a lot of teams with a lot of good players on them that are put together much better than this roster.
It's kind of shocking to me that this team was so utterly devoid of a good number 9 last year. And they decided we're loaning in a kid from Honduras and we're signing Frank Lopez, who scored like 7 goals in Miami. Yeah. And yes, like the Lopez thing is just a blatant Toros solidarity move. But like, I don't know, man. Because this team looked good at stretches down in like the final couple of weeks of 2024. They were
eliminated from playoff contention.
There were like real flashes that, okay, if we have a good offseason, the Locomotive could ostensibly like compete for a playoff spot. And I think Memo Diaz was a great move to do initially. And then everything after that has been underwhelming, duplicative at spots that are already deep. Like it just went off the path from there. So I'm a little bit higher on the odds of getting in, but man, this team hasn't done enough quite yet.
If we're talking about old LA2 guys that we want to put in the number 9, does anybody know what Preston Judd's doing right now? Is it too late just to bring him back to the championship?
Honestly, how's that stint in Poland going for oh my God, why am I blanking on his name?
Trejo.
Danny Trejo.
I think he's found a new job at this point that's going to make one of us pretty happy.
Yeah. I was pretty happy about it. It looks great. Awesome. What, Phil, do you not know?
Wait, do I not know?
Does he not know?
Do people know?
Danny Trejo plays for the Birmingham Legion. This is unreal.
Thomas and Trejo, what the fuck? Like, sorry, I know it's not really that sort of podcast. Man, you're welcome, chat. Yeah. You're welcome. That's how out of the loop I've been.
That's good stuff, man.
Man, how did I miss that?
That was unbelievable.
Hey, work travel does it to you, man. I know what you're dealing with.
Oh my God. Okay, well, we're officially back, and it's so funny because Kaylor, we've talked about how Birmingham and El Paso have been on these like similar trajectories, like since they're founded. Like it's like they've been on these similar sort of like their fates have been linked, and now I think we have the divergence. This offseason is like the divergence of now you guys get to like. We have our destiny and you have yours. I think like to round out the conversation on El Paso, and I know I rip on them because they are my team and all of that stuff. And like, I do think we're reaching the point of their signings that like I'm starting to get genuinely concerned about whether the team is actually like how much longer they're invested in the project. It's really that bad. Like,
well, Phil, I think it's honestly a good question because that's the whole reason Lowry left. Is because he didn't feel like they were invested in the project.
Yeah, I think it was like some Mark like feeling like the El Paso job wasn't high profile enough to like get him the interest in MLS that he was like expecting. But that being said, there was definitely aspects of I would think El Paso, I don't know, and like I don't have a verified number on this or anything like that, but I'm fairly confident that El Paso's payroll at the beginning of last year was one of the highest in the league. Like was among one of the highest in the league, which is crazy to think. But yeah, it was I think the investment's been there historically. I just wonder if last season was like bad enough for them to just be like, okay, we're not gonna pump money into this project anymore.
I mean, it doesn't shock me that they were one of the higher ones from last year just because like they spent a lot last offseason. Like a lot.
I was so high on this team last offseason, right? Like with Moreno and Moshaban, I love the Brandon Craig loan. Like so many of the moves were firing me up, and then none of it worked, basically.
Nope.
And that's what we get for booing Evan Newton. This is what we deserve.
That's when it all went. No. Really, if you deep it, this is all Ange Postecoglou's fault because John Hutchinson. It really started with him. So I will be honest. Like obviously, I don't have any like specific hatred for Spurs, but Ange's struggles have brought me some like modicum of joy because I'm like, really, this is payback for John, for the Hutch era of Locomotive, and this is what he deserves.
How about
Matthias Tell?
Hey. You want to hit some of those last little 10%ers, John, in the chat?
Oh yeah, we've got a 10% that El Paso announces a stadium plan because Harry's really twisting the knife.
It's a lot less than that, Harry. 10% is extremely generous.
We've got a 10% chance of Birmingham winning the championship, which, hey, having Danny Trejo helps for that.
Definitely.
We've got a question from Phil, you're too deep in, man.
I'm just gonna be surprised about that all season. Every time you guys say like he scores a goal, I'll be like, wait, what the fuck? Like he's at Birmingham?
A question from our friend at the Union Report, good, bad, or otherwise, any 10%ers related to Monterey Bay?
Let me check their roster because there was something I was looking at with them the other day that I was actually kind of bullish on, but come back to me because I had something.
Yeah, as I'm noodling, I will say, I don't know like what metric I put on it for the 10%, but maybe a Monterey player wins Young Player of the Year with a kind of nod towards Xavi Nolati with that one. I think that'll be my 10%er.
I got one, or I got it now, and I need to check his age.
Yeah.
But let's see. Am I good on this? Yeah. Nico Gordon for Monterey Bay. I think there is a 10% chance he wins Young Player of the Year. Ooh. I thought he was really, really good coming out of the Birmingham City Academy. He got a little bit of playing time in the championship, and he was really, really good at the next pro level. I think it was a really savvy pickup by Monterey Bay, and I think it's a 10% chance he wins Young Player of the Year.
Yeah, title winner for a very good defensive side in next pro. So he's one of the signings that makes me think like maybe I'm off the mark with Monterey, but yep, overall. So elsewhere, 10% chance no clubs fold next year. I would have told you something similar coming into this year, so it's hard to say. Yeah. 10% chance of a Cam Lancaster Golden Boot, so I love that people are staying positive while I'm not. We've got the nice Nicholas Murray 10% chance of doing a Jaeger Player Shield League title treble, which feels about right. I guess it would have to be a championship team because you really struggle to see a League One side going the distance in Jaeger, but nevertheless.
Yeah. 10% on last season in Omaha for Union Omaha Stadium in flux. We didn't really talk about the stadium situation where I need someone to really get, because every stadium situation I don't know how it works. This is where I'm just not an economist. Is that the word? Like I just don't understand how the money does and does not flow. But basically, it seems like another project is actually being built there, and they're being kicked from their lot. I don't think it's going to cause Union Omaha to leave because they do seem very set on this project, and I trust Gary, Mr. Green, to get this done in some way. I don't know. What do y'all kind of know about this stadium situation going on for Union Omaha?
I mean, I think you've kind of summed it up pretty nicely. The other thing is that like they've made it clear they're actively looking for alternative sites and got a couple in mind already. Is it a setback? Of course, like this naturally is going to add some red tape and some extra hurdles in terms of the groundwork you need to lay. But Omaha is so committed to the project overall that even if it's a push to 2027, that's probably not that bad of a thing to see there. So does it stink? Yes. Is it concerning? No.
I mean, in other stadium news, we got official renderings for Detroit City's proposed venue as well, which looked pretty decent.
Yeah, I enjoy seeing that. I'm I'm very excited to see what comes of the Detroit City Stadium project. I think it's going to be fun. I hope that they start breaking ground soon. And if that is my wish for any of these teams, the moment you announce it, just go ahead and get the golden shovel and just start digging tomorrow. Just do it. It's the only way I'm going to ever believe it's going to happen.
Well, Indy did a ceremonial groundbreaking, and we saw how that turned out.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
this is true. All right. Any final thoughts from us for the night?
I like the Richmond Kickers kind of rebrand.
There's a lot of people who hated it. I don't get it. I don't understand the hate. I understand like wanting a little bit more Roo. You want a little bit more Kangaroo. I do, but I like it a lot.
I think the secondary logo is great, the Roo secondary. The word mark or whatever, the interconnected letters is fine, but they make up for it by adding the kind of navy blue back in. Like, I like having that, especially as somebody who's like got a color-coded spreadsheet. You can't have Richmond be in red and white and Texoma be in red and white. Like, I needed a little bit of blue in there. So kudos to the Kickers for fixing this up.
And I think it was Mike Pendleton on Blue Sky who did a really good mock-up of the Kickers and the outline of their old shield. I think my only gripe with it is that it's another roundel, and that's just it seems to be the default kind of template for it. But overall, I think it's a very solid rebrand.
Yeah, that was kind of similar vibes. I like the old school feel to it. I think like the word mark for the words on the crest is a little bit like Canva for me, but I think like the and it being round versus like they obviously had a very unique shaped kit, and it was like reminiscent of a sort of an old era of US soccer, and I get why they looked at it as well for that same reason.
I just look at the old Kickers crest, and every time I look at it, I just can't help but just seeing Gio and saying that none of those shots are on target. And I just can never unsee it, ever.
It's really good.
Any other USL thoughts?
Nah.
I guess I got to watch the Legion friendly this last week. And technically no shots on target, although here's a gripe I have. If a defender clears something that's clearly going in, it's not a shot on target. Yes, it was. That's not a block shot. That's not a block shot. It was saved. It was on target. A block shot is like, hey, I shot from the top of the 18 and they were right in front of me. That's a block shot. But anyway, I digress.
I think it should be a block and a shot on target. Can I just throw that out there?
I'm fine with that. I am totally fine with that. But the idea of I cleared this off the line, clearly it wasn't going in. Yes, it was. That defender was not there. It was going in.
Okay.
It's a shot on target.
For that. This is a good take. Go listen to Kaylor talk about the Legion also. It's good stuff.
They're fun. They're a fun team. They're just it's constant pressing, and I think it's like a wing. Thank you, Nicholas. I appreciate it. I think I figured out their press. I think it's like anytime they get out into the wings, if their wing back or winger gets the ball, they try to press them to the touchline, because I could not figure out what in the world their press system was for such a long time because it felt random. But then it's super exciting. And also Turnbull is so good.
Any new attacking signings that you're particularly excited about?
There's this college guy, Dorado, I believe.
Yeah.
He's the biggest one, I think, from the offseason personally. No,
I haven't heard of any others. So
yeah, and it's funny, his last name, Dorado, is like that movie, Rodel Dorado. I'm sure that's the only like movie reference you can make of any of our attacking players that we've signed.
Yep. No, it makes sense. Sounds good. I'm excited for you, man.
I hope he's good. Granted, I will say Luca Dorado scored like 8 million goals at UCF, so he's gonna be good.
It's like 61 goals in 69 matches at the college level. It's kind of crazy. I think he broke Cal Jennings' record there, which not a bad person to be lumped in